So we have some subject matter that's planned for today that I'm really excited to talk about. But the first thing I want to talk about is fear and ways that fear can control us, ways that fear can make decisions for us, decisions that are not necessarily in line with our highest good. For those who are listening to this show in the future, we are actually in the midst of a gas shortage here in North Carolina due to a cyber attack. And it's really easy to get lost in the news and get lost in the current events that are unfolding right now and that are creating this very interesting atmosphere of uncertainty all around us. And this is actually like a perfect time to forge a new mindset in the midst of all of this chaos and discomfort of not knowing what's going to be happening in the future. So we were talking about this a little bit before the show. Like, how are you? You were just driving out and about. Is that correct?
So I actually was out. I had to go to the chiropractor, and then right after I got adjusted, my partner was like, okay, we need to get some gas. So we went to the gas station and we filled up, and it was business as usual. And then we got home and we're hanging out for a little bit, and all of a sudden my friend calls me and is like, hey, I'm in town, like, can I come over and hang out? I'm like, yeah, sure. She's like, oh, by the way, do you guys have gas? And I'm like, yeah, we just filled up this morning. Like, what's up? And she is the one who told us there on the phone. She said that her father was driving back to Asheville from Wilmington and thankfully had half of a tank of gas and was able to get home, but stopped at 12 different gas stations on the way back and was not able to find any gas. Got home on empty and is not going to be able to drive back down the mountain to fill up his tank. So, yeah, it's an interesting situation. It really shows us how dependent we are on these non-renewable resources and how, just how dependent we are on these things to get around and do our live things.
Yeah, like it's crazy, like how easy it is to take for granted that there are these like incredibly complex constructions of infrastructure that are allowing us to fill up our car. Like the gas does not come from around here. It's coming from somewhere way, I don't know where it's coming from, really far off. It's mind-boggling. Yeah. And it's really easy to take those things for granted. And it's like, what it's really bringing up for me is just focusing on like what's working for me. Because like I had a whole plan of like what I was going to do today that was like going to be effective or that I would, consider to be a good day. And I actually have not gotten to like any of those things. First of all, because you presented me with the amazing opportunity to do this podcast. And second of all, because so many other things just kept like coming at me, like really good news and also like simultaneous like, weird messages at the same time. Mm-hmm. Like I got a message from someone on Instagram just being like, oh, like you think the gas shortage is just a brushstroke on the canvas of history? And I'm like, yeah, like in the infinite timeline of history. And he's like, oh, that's really naive. I'm like, are you all right, dude? Like, well, I don't know if he thinks he's like helping or what, but I also got accepted into one of the largest art shops here in downtown Asheville, which is super exciting.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm getting a new computer very soon, so like I'm doing a bunch of research on like what that is, and like those two things I just mentioned are things that are like working really, really well for me right now that I'm really, really excited about. And even though just for a second I'm going to pull up the gas tracker and put it over here so that the audience can see. Actually, I'm going to put it on your screen because mine will be sideways. And the audience right now can see all the places in Asheville that are currently low or out of gas, which is crazy. I am certain that by the end of the week, that's probably going to look completely different. But like right now, as of today, there's a lot of like uncertainty in terms of how things are really going to pan out. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if I can ask you what some of your tactics of working through fear are. Can I ask you that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's been a really, really big theme the past, year and up until this point, just with the pandemic and so many things coming at us as a nation. And for me, man, I think all of us are susceptible to fear because our bodies, our minds have not evolved to the point where we are able to see a rude email is not as terrifying as being attacked by a saber-toothed tiger, we still process things in the same ways that we used to during cave times. So things that have really, really helped me is just having that awareness and finding humor in it a little bit. I just like step back into my witness when I feel myself start to get overwhelmed and anxious and shaky and like can't catch my breath or some of those physical signals. I pull myself into that witness state and say, all right, what's really going on here? What's really happening? And usually it comes down to, okay, I'm feeling fear about something. Whether it's something that's happening externally in my life or an internal fear of like, oh, what if this person doesn't like me? Or what if I say something stupid? And then I just kind of laugh at myself because most of the time, those fears and anxieties are completely irrational and not necessary, really. This gas crisis, for example, people are flooding the gas stations. There are lines like crazy in the roads for people trying to get gas. People are filling up 6 freaking gas tanks. And honestly, if we didn't do that, we probably wouldn't be out of gas right now.
Yep.
If everyone just got enough for what they need for the rest of the week, because honestly, in 3 to 5 days, we're going to have at least some gas. And we'll be fine.
100%.
So, fear can really spiral because it's like pretty much, it's like we are able to decide what we give momentum to. And when we have a good feeling, things are happening good for us. And it's like, oh, yes, this is working. It's easy to like give that momentum and be like, all right, let's go. Let's keep rolling with this good feeling. But same thing with fear and anxiety. When those negative emotions come up, it's so easy for us to like give that energy momentum and allow it to spiral when really once we start to feel it and it's like, the roller coaster at the top of the hill about to go down, we can just be like, no, and press the button. Make it stop.
Yep.
and that's not to say that we won't feel negative emotions. We're human. Of course we will. And I think it's important to recognize that and let those emotions flow through us and really honor that space for them. But, over time, as you start to work with, you don't fear, it starts to get easier to recognize and let go.
Yeah, I think I love what you said about having an awareness about what it is, and also like that rabbit hole of research that we can find ourselves in, because that's what I was doing last night. Like as soon as in the group chat when someone asked like, anyone know where to get gas? I was like white gas? Like I had no idea because it never occurred to me this could actually happen. And something I noticed is that as I was researching this on YouTube, like for about an hour, I was like, this feels productive, but it's not. Yeah. Like there's nothing I personally can do to influence this circumstance. Like I can't go to the Russian hackers or whatever and be like, hey guys, like, you want to like pull your ransomware and like just not do this? like I can't do that. That's what the government is trying to do, and they can't even do that. Otherwise, we'd have gas right now. And it feels productive. And even that weird message that I got on Instagram, like on some level, that guy feels like he's being productive. You know, he sent that message because on some level he felt like he was helping me by telling me that I was naive. And I think observing that those emotions and the place that they have, the place of survival that they're based on really is essential. But as sentient beings, we can kind of choose and decide like which emotions that we interact with and which ones that we decide to like take action on. And you're completely right. Like, I think at the end of this week, like things are probably going to go back to a relative normality. The oil industry is enormous. They are not going to let us not buy gas for that much longer. Like there's just no way. But the uncertainty right now is it's easy to get really freaked out by it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's natural, you know. I think it's okay to be freaked out for a minute and like allow yourself to feel that. But then after a bit, you know, just move on. Like you're saying, like it feels productive to research all about it when really like the most productive thing is just to find out the basic information. You know, how is this affecting me? What do I need to do to make sure that, you know, I can get done what I need to get done, that I have food in my house or whatever.
Yep.
And then just move on from there, you know, and just keep living your life.
Yeah.
Because when we're living in this like survival state, it closes us off and we're not able to fully live from our heart space, which is where I feel like we're the most productive and healthy and happy.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we're doing things that are making us like truly, genuinely happy, or that we truly feel like, yes, this is what I really want, like getting my art into this epic 2-floor warehouse downtown with like dozens of other super talented artists, that's a super exciting thing. Like, which artworks am I going to bring there? Like, that's something that I'm kind of calculating, you know, right now. As well as like, you know, the new computer that I'm getting very soon. It's so exciting. And focusing on that, you know, reminds me that like even those things are temporary just as much as the fear is of this gas shortage that we're going through right now. Like eventually it's going to pass. And this is the best opportunity to focus on our breath and to really hone in on the things that are working for us. After an hour of apocalyptic research that I was doing last night, I decided I'm going to watch something really funny. And I had to like really be aware of my thoughts in that moment and put my focus into the artwork that I was creating at that time in order to really evolve past that. And like once I started doing that, like really, really quickly, I found myself in a really positive state of mind where I was like, yes, I'm really enjoying this painting process. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing, and I'm feeling really good about the potentials of the future.
Yeah, and that's like the space where you just shift that momentum, you know, and you just like you change your perspective.
Yeah,
I've been, I guess, learning recently or further understanding, further accepting how everything around us is truly, truly a reflection of the vibration that we're putting out. So, you know, if I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling fear or anxiety or whatever it may be, and weird things start to happen, you know, like, oh my gosh, like this thing just broke, my computer's not working, like nothing's happening the way I want it to be. And it's easy to see that and be like, dang, like nothing is working out. This sucks. But really, it's like the universe is never testing us. It's really just showing us where we need to shift our vibration. Because things break, things happen, and that doesn't mean that it's the end of the world. You
Yeah.
know? We have a gas shortage. It's not the end of the world, but maybe this is happening. Maybe the hackers are doing this because they're actually environmentalists and they want us to see that we can't keep going on like this. We need to make a change. Just,
100%.
Just some food for thought.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, there are aspects to this that are going to teach us things, and I think that if the more we bring awareness to those aspects of ourselves and those aspects of our lives that are like working for us, and the more those things are going to grow, to remember that there's opportunity in everything, no matter like any uncontrollable event that occurs to us, like there's opportunity within that. Because like you were saying, like it's having the mindset of strength of that no matter what happens, I'm going to become stronger from this. Like whether it's something that I get something I asked for, or if I, have to deal with some sporadic chaos that has showed up and I've had to, really push myself through something, then like there's a lot of opportunity for growth in that. And I think if we can, lock our focus onto that thing and think like, this is what's going to develop, this is what's going to grow, then we can create a mindset that's prepared for anything. And then situations like this, like, will never actually bring us down or bring us into a state of fear. If anything, they'll bring us into a state of empowerment, because we know we're like, this is what I've been preparing for. This is what I've been doing my breath work and my meditation and my 7-mile runs for. This is exactly the thing that I wanted to happen, even though it totally sucks.
Yeah, absolutely. When things like that happen, it's just an opportunity to shift and let go of things that aren't serving us, and to make space for the goodness coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a good transition into some of the questions. When we last spoke in person, you were telling me that you and Aaron are like pretty much booked up for the summer on like vending and painting gigs. How did you make these connections that led to all of these events?
Yeah. So honestly, a lot of it was just preparing and then calling it in and then just waiting for it to manifest. Give a little backstory. At the start of the pandemic is when I decided to actually take my art seriously and create an avenue for people to enjoy the things that I create. And so because it was the start of the pandemic, like nothing was happening. I couldn't like go meet people or do festivals or make any kind of in-person connections. So I just really took that as an opportunity. Instead of allowing the fear to take over, I took it as an opportunity to build my website, create some works of art, and, just brainstorm, like, where do I see this vision going? What do I want to do? Do I want to make stickers? Do I want to do tapestries? Like, do I want to do clothing eventually? Where do I see this going? And that preparation time was so essential. I really took the time to make sure that everything on my website was working, looked good, felt good. I made sure that I had a stable, flow going with my social media accounts. By that, I don't mean I was posting like at a regular pace, because I like can't. I will set schedules for myself and like schedule out posts even sometimes. And I just and then I'll go like 2 weeks without posting anything. But at least, had things flowing on there, had posts and was starting conversations with people. And then I started ordering prints and checking out the quality of things, figuring out how I wanted it to be, what sizes I wanted to get. I figured out my pricing even before having anything lined up. before even have an inkling of a thought that I was going to get hired for events. But it's what I wanted. And so I was making sure that when that time came, I was fully prepared for that. And I think that's really essential, because you can sit there and say to the universe or whatever, you know, this is what I want, this is what I need, this is what I'm doing, you know, it's not going to happen unless you actually take the steps and the action to help. And if it's really in alignment and if it's really deep down what you want, the pieces will fall together. You know, you order the prints and they're going to be perfect quality the first time. You go to your website and it'll be easy peasy. You know, those kind of things show you when you're in the right path. And that was kind of my experience. And I had never had that with any other entrepreneurial endeavors that I had followed. So I really felt it. The first opportunity that I had was actually in California. Aaron and I were living in Northern California, and I went to a frame shop to get an original framed for no reason, just because I wanted to. You know, and it's like, framing is expensive. Like, why would you go and get something framed unless you're planning on hanging it on your wall or putting it in a gallery or selling it? I didn't even have walls. I was living in a van. But that was part of my process of just, I want this painting hung somewhere, so I'm going to get it framed. And that day, the owner of the frame shop happened to be opening a art gallery right next door and asked if I wanted to put my pieces in that space.
Wow.
So, you know, and literally that happened like right after I looked at my phone at 4:44. You know? So that's been a lot of my experience. Once we heard that festivals were allowed to happen at limited capacity, I just started applying to any festival that resonated with me that I could find that was had applications open. So the first one I applied to was Playthink, which is in Kentucky, in June. And yeah, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna, you know, get it, because Playthink is like, you know, I've been hearing about Playthink for years and I've never been, so, you know, it seems like a big festival to me and I'm so new and whatever, you know, all these like doubting thoughts coming in. But I was like, screw it, I don't care, I'm just gonna do the application and we'll see what happens. And yeah, a few months later, I got that acceptance letter. And that happened, and literally the same week that I got that, like, all the other opportunities that I have are happening. You know, we got invited to a local event called Ash Jam that's happening at the end of June, and that's like a hemp expo. And there's going to be like local jam bands, and you know, I'm going to do some live painting there. And yeah, just other things started to fall into place. I had people contacting me saying that someone recommended me, which I like, when that happened, I'd never even done a single live painting gig. So I'm like, I don't know how anybody's recommending me when I've never even done this before, but that's really cool. Yeah, so it's just been flowing. It's like, I don't really have an explanation for it besides, you know, I really prepared and felt ready for it, and just like, you know, opened up that space to receive.
Yeah. What it sounds like, just for me to distill that into the simplest idea, is like creating the foundation, like for the mothership of opportunity to land, and then all the little beings of potential opportunities come out of this mothership, and they're like, Grace, come paint over here. Grace, come paint over here. I love that you are proactively like taking the steps to allow these opportunities to show up. Because I think that's something that is really easy for us to forget, that like we have the option to like put ourselves out there and put those opportunities into place and take steps to receive like those sorts of emails that are like, you've been accepted. And if we prepare for those, and if we tell every single person that we know that we are preparing for them, then eventually somebody's going to recommend us for something. Like about a month and a half ago, I got interviewed by a reporter from, I think it was from the Asheville Times, about, he was writing an article about NFTs, and I had 4 NFTs online. I had just gotten into the space. I had just discovered it like not even a month prior, and someone recommended me, and like I got this call out of the blue from a friend who's like, hey, so I have this friend who's has an interview with a reporter from the like the New York Times network or something. Like it was a large news corporation network, and they were like, then they apparently were asking for me specifically. And like this is a friend who like I wouldn't expect this call from them like at all, but just like out of the blue one night they called me and they were like, hey, like this reporter wants to talk to you. I'm like, what? And I found out later that it was because I had messaged a friend of mine who's a 3D artist, who's doing really well in the NFT space, and he had been contacted and was by a reporter, and the reporter was looking for other people, so he recommended me. He recommended me and another one of his friends to have this discussion about NFTs, and it was just like the weirdest like circumstance. It ended up like really not being that huge of a deal at all. It wasn't game changing or anything. When I talked to him later, he was actually really upset about like what was said in the article about him. But it just goes to show that like, you know, putting yourself out there and like asking those questions, even if you don't feel like you're ready, that's the way that we kind of create that readiness within ourselves. It's like it's that decision when we make the choice that we are going to step into this place of power where we are capable of doing these things, and where we're creating the foundation for these things to really happen. So yeah. I love what you said about making the choices to start doing these things and to start building these frameworks for these opportunities to arrive. I think that that's a really wonderful decision that you made that's clearly given you a lot of opportunities for the future.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people really struggle with taking that action in the first place and actually like getting the motivation to do all the things that to prepare them.
Yeah.
And I would say, you know, if you're trying to make something happen, it's not going to happen. If you're trying too hard, maybe take a step back and reevaluate why you're doing it, or if it's really even what you want to do. You know?
Yeah. One of my favorite marketers said something that has always stuck with me, that is that we do not want to go viral before we're ready. Like, we do not want to get 5 million views on a video before we're actually ready to handle 5 million views. And
that's
like
intense.
actually
that comes with a lot.
Yeah, and like have the capacity to receive that kind of attention. Like we have to work for it and make sure that we're actually ready to like handle that kind of traffic and that kind of attention. Otherwise it'll be completely overwhelming and we won't have the framework for that to happen. And we probably won't get that attention for the reason that we really want. Mm-hmm. And I think that's,
absolutely.
I think that's super important, is just, you know, understanding the why of it. And I love that you brought that up of like, you know, taking a step back. If we're like trying too hard to do something, then that can often like scare it away. Like, have you ever had a person who like wants to be friends with you, like so fiercely? They're like always sending you compliments. They're always like, just saying things, and like their presence is actually overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've all experienced that. And it's like, no judgment for people who are in that space. Like, that's where they're at. But yeah, it's a lesson in that, really. Like, yeah, we got to just like balance ourselves,
I'm laughing because like I've been on the other side of that, where I'm like, oh my god, this person is so cool. I really want to send them a DM, but like I never do, because I know that like I'm just in a place of like I would be really overwhelming to this person, and I in myself I know that. and it forces me to take a step back and observe, like, why do I want to speak to this person? Like, what is it about them that is so magnetic, and what can I learn from that? And I think being from my perspective, being in a place of learning about ourselves from these like weird emotions, or from just random events popping up, creating a certain emotion within us, there's a lot that we can learn from that experience. And I think it's really important to be insightful of exactly what that is, and it gives us a clear idea of what it is that we want too.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think having that clarity is honestly the most important thing. I think just knowing exactly what we want, like as clear and defined as possible, is what's going to be the best framework for having that come into existence. All of our other decisions will become an echo of that inner vision, of that clarity that we have, that we know we want this thing. And then everything that we do throughout the day will be a little, will be a reverberation of this one future goal.
Yeah, definitely. And something that I do that helps me keep track of all that, and like helps me realize when I'm like wanting something that's not really meant for me. Almost every morning, I won't say every morning, I have a notebook where I'll just do some like mind dumping when I wake up, whether it's a dream or just some feelings I'm having, or maybe it's just like, I'm tired, I want to go back to sleep. And then under it, I will write manifestations. And I just write the things that I am wanting, but I write it in the sense that I already have it. Like, I am abundant. I am financially, spiritually, and mentally abundant. And then under all of that, I will write gratitude. I'll write a gratitude list. And sometimes I have gratitude for the things that I am manifesting. So I'll say, I am grateful for the financial, mental, and spiritual abundance. Sometimes I say, I'm grateful for water. I'm grateful for the sunshine. I'm grateful for a pen and paper, whatever it is. But that helps me keep track of like what I'm actually trying to manifest in my life. And then I will be shown things throughout the day. If I write something like, oh, I'm manifesting a new car, and then like the same day I like try to get a new car, and like the person's trying to like rip me off, or like trying to scam me, it's like, okay, maybe I'm not meant to get a new car. That's just an example, but helps me keep track, pen and paper,
Yeah. And you're creating that clarity, like by writing it as if you already have it, you're stepping into the mindset of you already having it. Something I've been thinking about a lot recently is that the things that we want the most in life are on the other side of us taking a specific action. Like, they're right here, but like between us, there's this like line of action that we have to take, and we have to figure out exactly what that action is in order for us to, bring that thing into our lives, which is really encouraging. It like turns our lives into this freeform puzzle where the things that we do every day are an echo of someplace that we're going to be in the future. And it gives us time to think about like, well, what is it that I really want? And I love that you're writing things down from a perspective of, almost every morning, of like what you is is happening within your life and within your future life. That clarity is something that I think is so essential to growth and success and happiness overall.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like, you ever have anxiety about doing a simple task and then you do it and you're like, well, that wasn't bad at all. Why was I stressing that so hard?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, the anxiety leading up to something can be so much worse than the actual thing itself. Like, if we just do it and get over it, we're like, wow, like, I spent a lot of energy worrying about this thing and avoiding this thing. Like, don't tell anyone, but my license plate is expired by like 15 months.
Oh, dang.
And I only found out about this like 2 weeks ago. And like, it's been fine. I paid a tax bill the other day that I guess is like a fee or something. And like, I wasn't even mad. It was $55.55. And 5 is my lucky number. It was my 30th birthday the other day. And I don't know, like, when I saw that was a number, I was like, wow. Like there was interest of like $2.07 or something really minuscule of that, because I didn't know that I owed any money until I got a call. and I paid it. I was like, okay, like is this divine procrastination? Like, cool. Like, what are the odds that it would be that exact number?
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, I wonder what sometimes these things happen and it's like, we'll never know what the real reason was, you know?
I trust that when we're really living in flow state and we're following our own personal blisses, that like these sorts of things happen for the best of reasons and for the best of our growth. And, you know, whether I'm naive or I'm correct, I think it's important to have that mindset, because it takes a lot to like really bring me down. Like the person in my life who causes me the most pain is me. It's my lack of action and my absorption in comfort activities that are bringing me like the most discomfort in life, because I'm not doing anything. Like, it was my birthday yesterday. This is a really good example. And so it was my birthday, and I let myself just relax and like do things that are kind of low effort, and like I didn't really do much. I did like a little bit of painting, a little bit of like writing, like nothing too serious or substantial, no expectations or goals for the day. And towards the end of the day, I felt myself start slipping into depression. And I was like, it's my birthday, I shouldn't be depressed. And I was like, wait, what did I do today? Like, nothing. Like, absolutely nothing. Like, that's kind of great. That's exactly what I planned to do this morning. And I realized that being in a state of the most comfort possible was actually the worst thing for my mindset. Like, had I been, I don't know, sending emails or like live streaming or just doing something that required more effort and took me further out of my comfort zone, then I would have had that rewarding aspect of like, yes, I did that thing and it was not as bad as I thought it would be, and here's this positive benefit that has brought, and here's also this experience of growth that I've had that has taken me to this next level.
Totally. Yeah. Constantly feeding the soul.
Yeah.
As soon as we're stagnant, there's like, you know, the energy stops flowing. But at the same time, it is really, really, really important to know how to rest and sit in nothingness with ourselves.
Yeah.
That can be hard, especially for me lately, because I have been very activated. It's like, whenever I'm not doing something, I'm like, what's wrong? Like, what's going on? Are we okay?
Yeah. I do think there's a fine line between being addicted to work and like learning how to find the right amount of rest, because I think there's a perfect balance that we can strike right in the middle. The day before my birthday, I did I think it was a 9-mile hike out to Shining Rock and back. And for over half of the hike on the way back, it was raining. Like, not like stupidly downpouring, but it was raining enough that when I got back to my car, I was soaking wet and I was pumped. Like, I had so much energy. I felt like I was going to get struck by lightning out on that trail. There wasn't any thunder, but I was in like a headspace where I'm like, what? Oh, yep, those are some dark clouds up there. Like, I'm on top of a mountain. Like, what if I get struck by lightning? That would suck. I better start running. So I basically ran like 4 miles and was like genuinely afraid for my life. Probably more so than necessary, because I was mentally a little elevated as well. and it was like the most exhilarating feeling to be like back in my car. Like, I have never been so thankful to return to my car after a really long hike as I was then. And I brought a change of clothes, like, just in case this happened. And I was so grateful that I brought that. When I got home that night, like, it was a whole different experience. Like, returning to the studio was like, oh my God, I love this room. Like, this is my favorite room ever. It's so big. There is my computer is here. I can make art in here day in and day out. And I was like having this, it felt like the floodgates of ideas had just completely opened up.
Yeah.
And like, giving me all this inspiration. And one of those things that I kept thinking about was my fake NFT masterclass, which I've been writing things for well over a month now, and haven't taken action on filming anything. And that night I wrote like pretty much a finished outline for it. So wow. The next step is like just start filming it, which I intend to do within the next week or so. Nice. But it's getting into those uncomfortable situations that test us and that give us that opportunity to grow, where we really are shown who we are and exactly what we're capable of. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. We gotta put ourselves through that discomfort so that we can actually grow from something.
So speaking of discomfort, I want to ask on behalf of the people watching this who, are talented artists and who may not be having too many like opportunities come their way. What would you recommend as a first step to start getting like vending gigs and getting creating these opportunities for them to really share their artwork with other people?
Well, I would say to really watch your mindset and to not like beat yourself up too much about the opportunities not flowing, because even if it's not flowing, that doesn't mean that they're not coming. It just means that it's not time yet. And some action that you can take is just, reach out to your local, art spaces. If there are galleries around, if there are open art studios, if you know other artist friends, just keep reaching out to people. Local markets are really good. Even like farmers markets,
Yeah.
Just like, keep asking questions and keep yourself prepared, keep yourself ready, because it's gonna come.
Yeah.
If it's right for you and you're really loving what you're doing, you're really passionate about what you're doing, then it'll flow. You just got to be patient. Like, patience is so hard for so many of us, especially in the US, well, all over the world at this point, because honestly, technology just gives us so much instant gratification. It's really hard to just sit and wait. But really, like, when we do that, that's when the opportunities start flowing in.
Yeah. So did these opportunities kind of come to you, or were you like Googling various words to find like markets and such in order to, find these opportunities and then apply to them? Like, or did they just like come to you through various channels?
Yeah, a little bit of both. Facebook is a really good resource for events.
Yeah.
And that's where I found a lot of the events that I'm working. And just, you know, if you see an event that resonates with you and you really like, just start following the page, start engaging with that community, and pay attention to what is going on, because once applications open, like a lot of times it goes like that, you know, like it'll pass by really quick. So, you know, be one of the first to apply if possible. Get your information in there. Make sure that you have photos of your work ready and that they're quality. Make sure that you have a bio written, a picture that you can give them for marketing. Make sure you have at least, you know, social media. A website is great too, an email, you know, all of these little business details so that, you know, you look professional. And yeah, and then some things, yeah, they just came to me. Like I said, that one person I'd never even met was like, someone recommended you, and we want you, you know, I love your work. I want you to come live paint at my event.
Yeah.
And, just, you know, the more that you do things, and sometimes you'll go to events and you'll be like, wow, this really sucked. Like, this was not my vibe. This is not what I want to do. And, you know, that'll happen, but that's okay. Just keep rolling with it. You know, now you know what you're looking for. You can refine things more and more and more. For me, like, I really like working transformational or educational events. I don't really like partying. You know, I don't really like going and painting at like just a big party scene. So, but if some people really enjoy that, it just depends on who you are, what you have to offer. And really, you know, it's important to understand that about yourself too.
Yeah.
So that you're not just throwing yourself at every opportunity, but you're really putting your energy and time into things that feel good to you. That is super important. And when you do that, you're just calling in more things like that into your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if we apply to an event and then realize halfway through the application that like maybe I don't really want to work this event, then we still get the practice of applying to an event. And we were talking about this last time you were over here about like moving moving like a vendor booth back and forth from various areas. You get really good at that process, which can like for me it takes me like at least, at minimum, an hour to pack up everything and do a vending event. It takes a while, and that's because all of my art is like all around the walls. And having this conversation is super motivating for me to go to Earth Fair and just set up a vendor booth, because you don't need to like sign up or anything. Like you can just show up, and if there's space out front, then you can sell your art there. And I've been meaning to do that for a super long time, and just don't, because I'm like, yeah, computers, woo. and you know, this is my comfort zone right here where I'm at. So this is really motivating for me to go out and do that, just do the work and like see what happens, because it'll give me that experience, and that experience is something that's so essential, you know, whether it actually works out or not. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, because that's actually another really big thing that got me started, is just, you know, here in Asheville, you don't have to pay anything to go set up or downtown or busk or in front of Earth Fair. You can go, and there are a lot of opportunities here to do that. I know not everywhere is like that. Some places have like societies where you have to be a part of it to go out and set up. Maybe, you know, if the person listening, if your city is like that, maybe check that out and see if it's worth it, even to just go out once a week and see how you do. For me, you know, I literally go downtown and sit on the sidewalk with just a tapestry out and all of my paintings and things just on the ground. Like, I don't even bring a table. And I've sold originals that way. Like, wow. I've sold everything from like stickers, greeting cards to originals. Yeah.
It really depends. You never know who's going to be walking by, and that is really uplifting. Like, I've literally had somebody walk by and just gift me $100. They didn't even want anything. I tried to give them. I was like, literally, take anything you want. It's yours. And she just wanted to give that to me.
Wow.
So you never know. And that was on a day where I was like, I don't know if I really feel up to it. Like, I'm kind of tired. I kind of just want to, like, stay home and chill. But, you know, my partner motivated me to go out, and that's what happened.
That is so inspiring to hear. Like, cause this goes back to like fear. There's those little voices in our head that are like, no one's gonna like your stuff, or no one's, you're just gonna bother people, you know, but those are just fears like within us. Like, people really admire the gusto that it takes to go and like sit on a curb that's really busy and like just have your work in front of tons of people. Like, that scares me, and I am so inspired that like you just went for it and did that, and that you got that kind of result from it, because you know that, Grace, that is so cool. that is so freaking cool.
Yeah, I thought so too. I was like, this is crazy. This is happening. But you know, when you have that fire within you, when you have that inspiration and that drive and that passion, people can feel that from you. And I just try to, you know, be friendly to everybody who walks by, no matter what. And like, we have like homeless people come over and like sit and talk with us, and it's like, you know, they're not going to buy anything, but I'm still going to sit here and talk to you because you're a human being. And you know, people walk by and see that. And I had somebody come and buy something from us because they saw us giving that love to somebody who most people would just be like, oh, whatever, you know, get out of here.
Yeah, or, you know,
Just
giving into
kind.
that, like, giving into that, like, discomfort of, like, oh, I don't know what this person wants, and, you know, like, that's really, like, stepping through that fear. Like, that's the true definition of courage, is, like, having fear about something and stepping through that anyway in order to just get your art in front of someone. Whether they are the right person or not, like, you sharing your work with people in that capacity is you gifting your energy and your work, like, regardless of what your artwork actually looks like, or, you know, what subject matter you're painting, just putting it out there says to every single person walking by, like, you could do this. Like, it gives permission to everybody else that sees that, and that permission that you're giving to others by giving yourself permission is something that's going to ripple out across the community and across eventually across the world, and, you know, create a society of more courage, you know, that's really inspiring. And I feel after we're done with this podcast, I might just run downtown with my canopy tent and like a giant canvas and put it in front of someone, because that's something I've started doing recently, and that's partially how I got accepted to this massive epic art shop. And it's so inspiring to hear that. So I want to get into preparation for these kinds of gigs or events or decisions to just bring your artwork somewhere. For someone who has never done anything like that before, who's never vended, what would you recommend to them to get started in vending and just showing their artwork to more people in a larger capacity?
Sure. So preparation, something that really helps me is making lists. Of
lists.
course. And I like to categorize them to kind of help my mind organize what I need to do. A lot of it is you need to buy a lot of things before you go out and vend. You need to buy inventory. You need to have business cards. You need to have tables, tablecloths, an easy up canopy, maybe some walls for it if you're a painter and you have things that are framed or canvases that you want to hang. And then to figure out a hanging system for that, I personally use just chains that I wrap around the structure of the Easy Up, and then use an S hook to kind of connect it, and then use more S hooks to hang my paintings on that. And if it's windy, you know, you can use, I make sure that they're long enough that they reach the ground and I can stake them in the ground, or use sandbags if that's not an option. And then having a plan for inventory. If you have a lot of things that you're bringing, you want to make sure that you're keeping track of what you're selling, how much you're selling for, and how much of it you're selling, so that later after the event, you can do some math and figure out how much you made after everything that you had to pay for. I use spreadsheets, but we also just use, like, during the event while vending, we just use a notebook and write every transaction down and the price, and if there was a tip, where it was paid to, because sometimes we have people pay through Venmo, PayPal, or Cash App, depending on what they're able to do. It's important to, like, have a plan on, like, how you're going to transport these things, what you can fit in your vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big thing. We literally stuffed my car to the brim with stuff. But after, because the first event that we worked, we had to break down and set up 3 different times for one event. And by the end of that event, we realized that we could pack really nice. You did, like, how to, you know, figure it all out so that we could still see out in the back, which was nice.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's really just making sure that you have everything you need as far as, like, extension cords. Are you going to be vending at night? Do you need lights? Do you need a battery? I use a Jackery, it's called, which is like a external battery inverter in one, and I can charge it through an outlet. I can charge it, like, through my car battery, my alternator just driving, or I have a solar panel for it. And that is, I can run all of my lights for my booth off of that. So even if there's not electricity in the venue, I can still run everything I need. But, you know,
so
all of
useful.
that stuff. Yeah, it is. But at the same time, it's like, you can still vend without all of that stuff. I would say the major things that you need if you're first starting out is a 10 by 10 Easy Up and some tables.
Yeah.
And then just find a system that works for you for whatever you're selling, you know?
Absolutely. And even like you said, like, that stuff is all optional. Like, one of the most successful festivals I ever attended, where I brought my art, like, I literally just put all of my prints out on a blanket right outside of my campsite, and I camped in a spot where, like, lots and lots of people were walking by, which I do that at every festival, very intentionally. And I ended up making so many connections at that event. I sold a number of prints at the event, and then later on I had multiple people contact me and say, hey, like, I remember you from Fractal Fest. I would really love to get that print that I saw there, that really big one that, like, I didn't want to buy at the event because it's festival, muddy, I'm tripping, that all those reasons. And that was really motivating, because most of the time, especially in social media, when people hit me up and they say, like, hey, I really want to buy this artwork from you, like, I really love it, I'm like, okay, here's how much it costs, and they're like, okay, I get paid on Friday, and then I never hear from them again. Whereas, like,
that'll happen.
Yeah, like, but making that in-person connection, like you're talking about, is so much more impactful, and it changes us in a sense, because we're having that real in-person interaction that is building that connection, and people are seeing the artwork in person, and that's so much more profound than, like, seeing it, you know, through the filter or of a social media platform.
yeah, you get to like see the quality, like feel the print, like really like pick out all the details.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think another thing that you reminded me of that's really important to prepare for is just like having that social interaction. Because when you're vending, you're not just there to sell your stuff. Like you're there to talk to people about your work or whatever product it is that you are selling, and make a connection with them. So it's important to be able to communicate your ideas clearly, and that comes with really having the passion and the drive and the love for what you do. You can't, if you don't really know what you're creating or selling, it's like hard to connect with people over it. It's like, oh, what's this? I don't really know. I got it from a random person and now it's here.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to sell it to you,
Says nobody ever who spent $700 on a painting.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to recommend.
Know what you're selling.
I want to recommend one of my methods that really helped me like narrow down my own definition, and that was actually writing about myself on my website. Because then, I have maybe one sentence that can hold people's attention about what it is that I do. And once I figured out like the best single sentence that I can use to describe my artwork and describe myself along with it, it was so much easier to like talk about my art, because I knew from a very authentic and personal place, I knew exactly where it was coming from. And that was game changing.
Yeah.
And it was actually because I got invited to a gallery that I had to like really articulate all of that information, and just and sharing that information on my website was really essential. I'm sure maybe like 50 people in total have actually read that description, because I don't usually advertise or send people to my website. But having that information internally gave me such a strong foundation for describing my artwork in the future and how to write about it. Because at the end of the day, when people buy art, they're buying something that they resonate with on a really deep level. Mm-hmm. And that's why fan art ends up doing really well, because they resonate with the TV show or the anime that it's based on. And that's why art that's of like more personal concepts for other for the artists themselves, like a lot of my work, the trouble I have is like articulating what about my artwork is relatable, because a lot of it's based on like very personal mystical experiences that I've had, and that's something that I've worked through like quite a bit, is just the actual articulation of what it is and what it's about.
Mm-hmm. I can relate to that, because a lot of my paintings, like I don't really plan out a lot of stuff. Some things I base off of photos, but most of it is just like channeled through me. And when I first started just going downtown and setting up, Aaron kept saying, like, you got to talk to people about your art. Like when people come up and tell you they like something, you got to like talk to them about it, like tell them the story behind it. And I'm just like, but I don't even know. I don't even know how that happened. Like I picked up a pen and some paper and it just like came out of me. But I realized like that is enough to just say, like I just put myself in a meditative state and I channeled this artwork. And now that I look at it, I can kind of understand like where I was at in that moment,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes really those channeled things are things that are not even really part of us, but they just end up coming through us. Mm-hmm. Like a couple weeks ago, I had this overwhelming urge to draw a duck with giant floating mushrooms in the back. And I spent maybe like 3.5 hours on this digital painting. It's like 12 by 12 inches, and I shared it in a group on Facebook. And I was amazed at like how many people reacted with being like, "This is part of my soul." And I'm like, "Oh, wow!" Like I didn't even know why I drew it at the time, but I'm so grateful that it resonates with this many people.
Yeah.
And that was cool because it just goes to show that like sometimes it's our particular skill set that like this abstract intangible kind of concept needs to come through us. Like we're the person to facilitate this thing being born and brought into the world that is not necessarily a part of us, but it's a part of someone else or some other community or group of people on the planet that really need to see this. And it's unexplainable to us. Even after I drew it, I was like, is this painting for you? Like that was literally what I put in the description. I'm like, I don't know why I drew this. Like, what do you think? And the number of comments that I got, I was like, wow, that's a lot of friend requests. Look at that. Which is like the best feeling. And it was just following that like little inkling of intuition that created that result of attention.
Yeah. It's funny how like I feel like every artist or creator has gone through a period of their lives where they're like, oh yes, like this painting is gonna be the one that makes it, you know, like this is gonna be it. I can promise you that it's never gonna be that painting. It's gonna be the random one that you're like, I don't even really like this that much. And then like 1,000 people are like, this is amazing. I need this everywhere. You know, because it's like when we think too much about it, it just like, I don't know, it changes things.
Yeah, it stops the intuitive flow of the work coming out when we overanalyze it and we're like, I don't really I want to draw it, but I don't really resonate with it. Like I don't really know. Like I go through that a lot, and I like that you brought up feeling that a painting we create is going to be like the one. Like this painting is what's going to make me super famous and I will be so successful. I can buy an island at last and build my visionary psychedelic cathedral out of aluminum alloy beams, and it's going to be 500 feet tall. We're going to throw psytrance parties underneath it. But the fact is, like, we should just create like as much art as we can, like whenever we have time. If we have a strong feeling like we need to draw something, then it can be the best idea to go forth and create that artwork there.
Yeah.
So I really love that you brought up that aspect of like, you know, it's going to be the painting that we don't really put too much thought in. It just kind of comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever had an experience like that with one of your paintings?
Yes. Yeah, like when I first started taking myself seriously as an artist, the first few paintings I did, I was like, wow, it's so simple, but it speaks so much. You know, people are really going to connect with this. It's really going to hit on so many levels. And the paintings are good. I like them. People like them, but they're not my most popular pieces.
Yeah.
My most popular pieces are the ones that where I kind of like stopped caring. I didn't stop caring about like how the painting like the quality, but I stopped caring about the outcome.
Yeah.
And I just let it flow through me. And I just was like, you know, people can like this or they might not, but it doesn't matter because it was therapeutic for me. I had fun making it, and I'm just going to put it out there and see what happens. And that drawing in particular, like the one I have in my mind in particular is the one that everyone gets sucked into when they come into my booth. And they're just like, whoa, this is amazing. And I'm like, it literally started with like the back of a lid to a candle, you know, that I just like traced and then built off of that. And like, I had no expectation for that.
Very humble beginnings for this painting that would go on to bring you copious amounts of fame, only to your bamboozlement.
Yeah. I had no idea.
Oh, that's awesome. So you've traveled a lot. And that's something I want to do as well. How would I go about planning a road trip where I have set and scheduled destinations to bring my artwork to, such that it can make something really enjoyable, the road trip, an example, into something that is also really productive and is actually effectively getting my art in front of more people? How would you recommend I start or plan that in some way?
So the way that I like to travel and have gone about traveling is a little bit different than that. Like, I don't really plan anything. I'll have an idea of places that I want to go and a timeline. Sometimes I don't have a timeline. Sometimes I'm just like, I don't know, as long as I'm gone. And I just bring everything with me and I let the opportunities open up. I just trust in my intuition. I go where I feel led to go, and it just happens. There's a lot of places out west where you can just set up anywhere. Arizona is like that. There's like a whole community of people that do that in multiple places. There's a lot of BLM land, which is Bureau of Land Management, and that is government-owned land where you can camp for up to 14 days in one spot, and then literally, like, you have to move like 10 feet or something like that, and then you can camp for another 14 days. So there's a lot of places where you can camp for free. Of course, it's rural camping, like there's not bathrooms or running water or anything, but you know, gyms are starting to open up now. So like I would just go to the gym and take a shower, or you know, connect with people on the road and be able to go take a shower at their house.
Yeah.
When you travel like that, you really open yourself up to be wherever you need to be for things to unfold, for you to meet the people that you're meant to meet. I've also, you know, done things where I have had a plan of like, all right, I have to get here at this date for this event. And honestly, times where I've done that, it hasn't worked out. Like, I've hit like a massive roadblock, like can't get there in time, like have to cancel. But then like I end up going and doing something else. It all flows. It all, you know, you just gotta like open yourself up and listen to your intuition, follow those angel numbers.
Yeah.
And you'll be guided. The best advice I can give is just like, pack what you need, try to pack light and just like go. Make sure your car is good so it doesn't break down, you know, in the middle of your trip, and just go do it. Things might happen, and that's all a part of the experience, you know? Like, I've had a lot of things happen on the road where I was just like, well, I didn't expect this, but now we're here and this is what's happening, and we just got to roll with it. And that's really like what traveling and being on the road like that teaches you. It teaches you how to be free flowing and allow things to come and teach you. And it helped me a lot with just like letting go of that fear state too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like what you're hitting on by saying that the things that you planned out often don't pan out as we might expect them to, because then we're kind of building this like expectation within ourselves that we're going to get this one specific result. Like, we're going to go to this shop. I've read about them online. It seems like I'd be a really good fit there. And then, you know, show up there and it's completely not what we had anticipated. And, you know, I think the only reason that we ever feel like sad or down on ourselves is because of an expectation that's been let down. And by putting that much like planning and effort into something, then, you know, we're also creating some sort of expectation within ourselves, and that can it doesn't feel good when that gets let down.
Yeah.
So I love what you're saying about being open to the flow of things. Personally, I'm a very high neurotic individual, so I like to plan things really meticulously. And I feel like sometimes that actually holds me back because I feel like I need to have such a clear action plan that it prevents me from really living in the moment and going with the flow. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, the goal of it is to just the goal of growth for me personally is to get my art in front of as many people as possible. And whether that happens in a way that I had planned or in a way that I wasn't expecting, then, that's the purpose of it, is to get my art in front of as many people as possible. And just having this conversation with you, I'm feeling really motivated to go out there with my book full of prints and just start showing it to random people. Because in the past, that's how I've made some of the best connections, is in ways that I just was absolutely not expecting. Mm-hmm. And it opens those opportunities for really happy surprises to show up. And just, it's, your name is Grace, but it allows space for grace.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, whenever we have expectations for literally anything in our lives, whether that be our relationships with people, our financial state, our work experience, anything, like, it's not going to turn out the way that you expect it, because life is nothing is linear. Nothing is just going to go how you want it to go. And we have to learn how to accept and get over that, like our minds are very powerful in the sense of, we do create our own reality, but it doesn't always show up in the ways that we think it's going to show up. That doesn't mean it's not coming, but when we have those expectations, it's like, I feel like it's almost like we have expectations and the universe is like, cool, yeah, that already happened. We don't need to do that anymore. Instead of being like, okay, let's let this thing happen. Let's let it flow.
100%. Yeah, I love everything that you've discussed today, and I think it's really insightful because it's really all about just putting our work in front of people in whatever capacity feels right or feels good for us, and without really having any expectations. I think the most important part is to just get as much feedback as possible. And, just hear as many people's opinions as possible, because we're always going to encounter people that, like, maybe our work doesn't really resonate with what they're about. And that's totally fine, because there's also going to be people who are so eternally grateful that we made the decision to draw this particular thing in this particular way. Everybody has a different perspective and vision of what the world looks like. And and it's important for all creators to be creating and translating those inner visions into something articulate that we feel proud of, that we feel happy about, and not just happy about the result, but happy about the process. Mm-hmm. Something Gary Vee has been saying a bunch that I love is this: real success is being happy. Like, it's not about money or connections or what kind of car you drive. He talks about, like, if you it's better to it's worse to be driving a Lamborghini and be miserable than it is to be driving a Honda and being pumped. And I drive a Honda and I'm pumped. When I got back to my car the other day and I saw my little gray Honda, I was like, you, I love you, and just ran to it. I had a full gallon of spring water in my hand. I was like drinking it as I'm running. I'm like, I was stoked.
Yes. I love my Honda.
Yes. It's so reliable. I've had my Honda Civic for I want to say 8 years now, and it's been an absolute dream of a car. I do not feel like I need to get another car anytime soon, because like my car, as far as I'm convinced, he is indestructible.
Yeah, I mean, those cars kind of are. They'll run for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, knock on wood that we're, for another many years of of successful driving. I'm not really thinking about that today as of the gas shortage.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm thinking about like, how can I reach more people from home? How can I make more connections from where I am right now at this very moment?
Mm-hmm.
And making a podcast exactly like we're doing right now is a great way to create those connections and, further enhance those relationships that we already have, whether they're like acquaintances through like our following, if it's like, people who just like our art that we've never actually met in person, or whether it's people that we've known for a really long time who learn something new about us through this conversation. It's making those connections that's like absolutely the most essential part of, in my perspective, of having success as an artist.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Epic. So what's next for you?
Okay. So this weekend I don't have an event, but that I'm working, but I am going to Utah for my cousin's wedding. So that's a big thing. And then I get back and I have 2 days until Resonate in Swanee. So me and Aaron are packing up the car, driving down to Florida, and then we'll be traveling through Florida for the rest of the month until we get back and have another festival every weekend for the next month.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But in the meantime, I'll be working on paintings, and while I'm in Utah, I'll be doing a lot more drawing. And I'm trying to like be more active on social media with sharing process photos and videos, but I don't know. I just have it's a weird relationship I have with social media. Just wanting to be more active on it, but also needing to take that space for myself for mental health.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It is like a watered down version of real interaction, and it's amazing that we have this technology and we can create these connections across the internet through this virtual space. At the same time, though, I think it's important to understand our own habits with social media. Like very frequently I find myself like scrolling through Instagram or Facebook or something and just being like, wow, I don't care about anything here.
Yeah.
And like, that really highlights the essentialness, I guess, of like creating stuff that we really authentically feel good about putting out there. And I'm really glad that we had this conversation about how to create more of these actual physical events in our lives and like bring to life these connections that we know are possible, that the potential is very clearly there for it. And yeah, this is really inspiring for me because often I've just kind of relied on like social media to do that. But that's because I'm really comfortable in here. It's hard for me to get up and leave. I am Taurus AF. Yeah. I like being here a lot, too much sometimes, actually.
Yeah, I get that. I'm a Cancer, so I get into hermit mode like pretty intense sometimes.
So do you have any advice that you wish you knew when you started, before you started getting like a very consistent schedule of events? Like, I'm wondering if you have any wisdom that you would like to share with artists or creatives who are maybe a little apprehensive about putting themselves out there in such a vulnerable situation, like vending on the sidewalk or something. Do you have any actionable advice or wisdom that you would like to share with them?
Absolutely. recognize that it is scary, sit with that fear, face that fear, and tell it straight to its face that it does not belong here. Release judgment for yourself, because let's be real, we are all so incredibly different and unique that it doesn't matter what the person next to you is creating or looks like or acts like. That is completely different from who you are, what you have to offer, what you have to bring. Release that judgment for yourself. There's no need to compare what you create to what someone else creates. Put yourself out there, because you are amazing exactly how you are. Keep practicing, keep doing what makes you passionate, even if that changes every 10 days and you have 1,000 hobbies. Like, just do them all.
I love that.
Until one really like resonates for a while, and then when you have that momentum with something, just roll with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just keep trying new things. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, because even if like you play guitar but you're a painter, playing guitar can inform so much in your painting. You're practicing like finger dexterity, you're practicing like rhythm and flow, and you can learn so much from everything and channel it into whatever you're doing.
Yeah. And it's like we're equipped with all these really specialized interests that are meant to translate into our own specific visions of creation.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things are there within our field of interest for a really specific reason. Mm-hmm. Like that's kind of how this podcast ended up coming to life, is because I've always really wanted to do a show of some kind. I really love long format audio content because I'm painting a lot, so my eyes are they're a little busy. And having audio content like this that's good and useful is something that I love.
I agree.
Oh, that's so fantastic.
It's fun to do these too. It's fun to like speak about the experiences I've had and just like, yeah, get the words out there. Sometimes it's just like all up in my head. And thank you for thank you for welcoming on your show.
Oh, thank you so much for being on here. Yeah, just before we wrap up, I want to really, really drive home the point that you were just speaking on about having many different interests, like having all of those interests, like other people share those interests in some capacity. And if we can, it's okay to try like tons of different things and to be doing like tons of different things at once, because inevitably the things that are not really fully working for us are kind of going to fall off of our radar of interest, and we'll move on to things that are generating more happiness for us in the moment. And if we kind of cycle through those things, then that's fine, because we're all on our own journey to find our own unique method of creation and of bringing value into the world. And if we're doing a bunch of different things at once, then our range of skills is going to expand dramatically, and we're going to have a lot of different options available for how we can create. And then from there, we can find those various outlets that we can apply each and every one of those skills in some capacity. And who knows, maybe one of them at the end will stand out really strongly, and that will be something that you love doing and will also sustain you indefinitely. And I think it takes bravery to just try all of those things and not have expectations of results, but most importantly, be enjoying the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, if you're somebody that's sitting at home, like, well, I have like no interest. Like, I don't have any hobbies. What do I do? Just explore. Try a bunch of different things and just see what makes you click. Maybe it's finances. Like, I don't know. Some people have more logistical brains.
Yeah.
Do whatever works for you.
Yeah, maybe it's even waiting on tables or providing customer service in some extent, because all of those aspects of society are super essential. Like, if we lived in a world where every single person on the planet was determined to be an artist and to create 2D visual art, then we'd be fucked. We'd be in a bad condition if everybody was painting. Like, we need the various ranges of tasks and activities and jobs and vocations in order for society to actually work. Back to the fuel shortage. I was reading online that that most millennials and Gen Zers, Zoomers, are not interested in being oil truck drivers, and that's partially to blame of why we have a gas shortage right now. At least some websites were saying that. I don't know how much is speculation or what, but we genuinely need oil truck drivers, and that's a very important vocation that we need people to be doing. We need people to be waiters at restaurants, and we need all of these aspects of society in order to function. And even if at the end of the day you really don't like the job that you're doing, then definitely be open to other options and be searching, but also recognize that what you're doing is providing value in some capacity, and that our vocation, whatever it is making someone else's life better. We're adding value to somebody else's life, and adding that value, I think, is the most essential thing towards our own happiness. And we might not always get the validation that we're doing the right thing. Like, it might not always arrive. If you're a server at a restaurant, the customer might say thank you, but they might say it in a way that doesn't feel legitimate or something, and then it can be easy to get down on ourselves. But still recognizing and giving ourselves credit for putting ourselves out there and spending the energy that it takes to provide that value to other people. That's what's most important. And sometimes we have to appreciate ourselves and appreciate all the hard work that we do.
Yeah. And not take things so personally too. Like, someone says thank you in kind of a rude way or doesn't leave a good tip. It's like, you don't really know what's going on in their lives. You don't really know what's going on in their heads or in their wallets.
100%. Grace, thank you so much for doing this show. Can you tell our wonderful viewers where they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram at graceashlyn.arts, on Facebook at graceashlynarts, and then my website is graceashlynarts.com, and that's spelt Grace, ASHLYNN, arts.
Super consistent. I love it. And of course, all of those links are going to be right down there in the description if you want to connect with Grace. My information is down there as well if you want to connect with me. Grace, do you have any final words that you want to say to our viewers?
Thank you for being you and for bringing your light into this world. I appreciate all of you and love you all so much. And thank you, Brett, for just being awesome and for starting this podcast. I'm really excited to see where this goes.
Thank you so much for being on here, Grace. And thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful day, wonderful morning, wonderful evening.